Hi everybody, welcome back. Tony again here with Shinsho Yoga. And this week we'd like to work on a posture known as Supta Virasana, or Supine Half Hero pose. A lot of words going on there. So, hero pose is our posture where we're seated, which often can look like a meditative posture, not too far off from what I have here, but we are sitting, right, on our legs, sitting back on our heels, legs underneath the body. Now, this posture is really designed as a stretch for the quads, the front of the knees, and the legs here. Now, this can be a very challenging posture, so as I always do when I come into this posture, I like to use a blanket, and I bring it underneath my heels here, and this way I can offer some of the pressure off of the legs to raise me up a bit, and much easier for me to be able to sit in this posture and let it do its work. But there are modifications on this posture that we can do. And one of them is half hero, and then of course supine half hero. The one I find to be most effective is supine half hero. Half hero, or Ardha Virasana, right, can be effective, but Supta Virasana, or supine half hero, I find to be much more effective. So if we want a deeper stretch for our quads here, this is what we want to do. So, Supta Ardha Virasana, supine half hero. Oh, I'm going to need this. And also, I'm going to bring out a block, so I'm going to show you some modifications for this. So, half hero posture. We start from our seated position here, right? Much like we would Dandasana, or staff pose. From here, we're going to take our one leg, and I'm going to use my right, and we're going to tuck that in to the body here so that the right leg is somewhat tucking underneath the body, right? So we don't want out like this. This is not going to do the same thing. This is going to get more of the outside of the leg, and it's not, in my opinion, that overly effective to do that. It's just kind of doing this posture and not being able to do it. So we want to be able to bring in this leg. Now, this might be very intense here on the inside of the leg, and it may be very difficult, depending on the size of your leg, right, to be able to have this tucked underneath your body. That's where your blanket or your block can come in. So, when we have this issue, you will take your blanket and you'll bring it underneath the opposite side, the opposite glute, so you can sit back on this leg, keeping the forward foot with a semi-dorsal flexion. We just don't want it flopped out and lazy. You don't have to do a hard dorsal flexion with it, just a semi-dorsal flexion, keeping this underneath here. And from here, for just Ardha Virasana, or half hero, we can stay like this. This is pretty intense right now as it is. You can even take your hands behind you this way and maybe offer a little bit of a press up so the chest is lifting up, right? With your foot out forward like this, you'll not only feel it in the back of the leg here, in addition to feeling it in the leg that is tucked. But for our supine half hero, we have to lean back. But with this blanket underneath us on this side, it's going to limit how far we can go back. Because if you go all the way back with this, what you're going to end up doing is arching the back up and getting into a really funky posture, which is not healthy for the body. So if we are going to recline in this posture, we have to do it from our fully seated position, right? So to recline in our half hero here, again, our leg is tucked in against the body. Our front foot is semi-active. From here, we then go to lean back. And we start by taking the elbows down. Right? This may be enough for you. We want to avoid this in the process. Don't let that leg that is tucked pop up, right? So if it's raising up like this, come a little bit forward, right? Because you're not going to have the same stretch for this if that leg is coming up. So we want to keep that leg down, forward foot semi-active. Start by coming down onto the forearms, and then from there, if you have the ability, you can come and lay all the way down onto the mat. And again, we want to avoid this. Don't let that rise up this way. Keep that leg down. You can even take the arms behind the body here, and you should be feeling this from here down to the knee in the front of the leg, trying to keep this tucked in tight. Don't let it splay out to the side. And we breathe. Coming out of this, bringing those arms back, working your way up, taking that leg out. Can be an intense posture. If you want, you windshield wiper them out. Same thing on the opposite side, right? You may have a good side and a bad side. Right side may be the good side, left side may be the bad side, or vice versa. Start by taking the opposite leg, again, tucked in. Now, again, if this is too much to stay just like this for our half hero, you can take either the blanket or a block. I prefer a blanket because the block is hard, and it's going to, when you sit on it, it's not going to feel good. So again, I like to use a blanket if I really want to tuck that leg in, and then we stay here. Right? Again, in half hero, if you are up on a block or a blanket, you don't want to lay back. It's going to make the hip arch up. You're going to be getting to more of a back bend, and it's actually not a good position to be in. So for this one, to recline, you're only going to go as far back as your arms will allow. The minute you start feeling it in the back, you want to stay right where you are. Right? But generally, you can just stay here. Leg tucked in, leg long, slight dorsal flexion, and breathe. But again, if we want to come into the full supine version, again, this leg stays tucked. No blanket or block. Active right foot or forward foot. Initially come back onto the forearms, and then if you can, lay all the way back onto the mat. And if you need be, you can take the arms long behind you, close the eyes, and breathe. And again, coming out, bring yourself up. Out, and I like to windshield wiper that out. That can be a pretty intense posture. It's not something you really want to do during a warm-up. You want to do this posture when the body is warm, when you've done some type of leg work, at least gone through your set of sun salutations and sun breaths, etc. It's not a pose that I would ever put in the beginning of a class. This is more of what we would call a peak pose, something we work towards in the class. But it is a pretty intense stretch for the front of the leg, depending on how you're doing it. Again, if we're leaning back, you're going to feel that from here through the knee all the way up into the hip on the front side here. So if you have tight quads, this is a posture that can really isolate and work that. But as in anything with yoga, everything works together. So if you're watching this video going, oh, I have tight quads, I should do supine half hero. No, you should do a yoga class, but this is something you can add to it because all of the postures work together in yoga. There's method to the madness. There's all overlap and focuses in certain areas that also affect other areas too. So you just don't want to really launch yourself into this posture. You want to be warming through a class to do it. Although it's not something like a headstand, it's a bit of a more advanced posture when you come into that full recline. But again, if you're just doing the half hero and you're struggling with it, you can use, again, the block or the blanket. Or sometimes what I'll have some with certain students do, I've had ones that have major issues with their legs and their quads. Stack a block and a blanket. Bring them up even higher. But again, with this way, you don't want to lean back very far. There's too much in an angle, too much pressure putting up, and what it's going to do is it's going to take the stretch out of the front of the leg, and you're going to be doing some type of weird quasi back bend, which is honestly, when you're done, just doesn't feel good. So, Ardha Supta Virasana, or actually Supta Ardha, Supine Half Hero pose. As always with it, just breathe and follow your breath. Thoughts arise, pass by, and return to the breath. Thanks again for watching. Namaste.